Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 810 with a review of One Battle After Another. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week on the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a theater near you. This week, we're talking about One Battle After Another. Stephen, in the weeks leading up to this coming out, we've been talking about how weird the marketing is for this film. Mm-hmm. It seems like this thing is not really showing what we're going to be watching, and we couldn't figure out why. Now that we've seen it, do you think you know why the marketing has been as weird as it is?
I do. I was actually going to say in a weird way, having seen the movie, I feel like my initial guess of what type of movie it was from the trailer was more right than having heard all the hype about the movie. we can talk about that when we get into the actual review. But yeah, I think basically Warner Brothers just did not know how to market this thing at all. You know, like they desperately want to get asses in seats. Leo DiCaprio is obviously like a big deal, and they want to play up his star persona, but they don't quite know what to do with the tone of this movie, how to communicate that in a trailer for better or worse. Like we can talk about that, but it was very interesting. Like 5 minutes into this movie, I was like, oh, I get it. I understand. I understand why they didn't know what to do with it. Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because like, I do not envy anybody on the marketing team for this film because basically, it's rumored that this film, the budget was around $130 to $200 million. Mm-hmm. And if you look at PTA's last 5 movies, all of them combined world gross are $205 million. Uh-huh. Yep. So they're basically like, we're going to take a chance. And we're basically going to make a movie that's going to cost us as much as your last 5 movies, and we can't cut off half the audience for this movie. Yeah. So how are we going to market it?
And to be fair, like when they made those plans, Warner Brothers probably needed a win. Now they don't. They've had like Sinners, they've had Weapons, like they've been crushing it this year. Yeah. So it's interesting that they still had this kind of frenetic marketing campaign because I feel like now they could afford to just be like, yeah, we're doing a big prestige thing from one of the world's greatest directors, and it doesn't matter that he doesn't make money. You know. Yeah. You should love us. We're WB. We're keeping movies alive. But instead, they still had that energy of like, please, 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 someone needs to come watch this movie.
Yeah. And I mean, we're recording this on Sunday, so we don't have the full weekend numbers. So far, they don't look that high.
Yeah, unfortunately. I assume there's going to be legs. Like I assume word of mouth is going to be solid. But I mean, we can get into it. I'm actually very curious, but it's tied up in my take on the movie or my review of the movie. Yeah. Like basically how much does this want to be a crowd pleaser and how much does it succeed if that's what it wanted to do? It's just very interesting because the hype, I'm kind of like half diving into a prelude to a review here, but the hype for this movie has been astronomical. Right? Yeah. Like I think it started pouring in when we were still at TIFF, and this was one of those strange films that like didn't hit any of the fall festivals, so no one had really gotten to see the movie until I guess they did some critic screenings like a couple weeks before it came out. But the hype was like, this is the greatest movie of the year. This is PTA's masterpiece. It is arguably the greatest movie of many, many years. This is an all-timer. Like, could not be more astronomical in like the wave that is about to happen, the revolution that's being unleashed, which is a very interesting place to be when you sit down to watch the latest PTA movie. I don't think it's a place that PTA would want you to be, honestly, when you sit down to watch it. So yeah, we can definitely get into it. It's very... Knowing what like a normie audience member feels about this movie, I'm so curious. I really want like some kind of man on the street interview.
Cool. Well, Stephen, what do you say we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's take a listen to the trailer for One Battle After Another, and then come back and give everybody a review.
Rise and shine.
Bat an eyelash.
Good morning.
There are no hands on the clock.
Why?
Because they're not needed.
What time is it?
You know, I don't remember that part. All right, let's just not nitpick over the passwords. This is Bob Ferguson. I was a part of the French 75.
like Tony Montana!
Steve Lockjaw just attacked my home, and I cannot remember, for the life of my only child, the answer to your question.
Maybe you should have studied the rebellion text a little harder.
I need to find my daughter.
Well, then call us back when you have the time.
You just...
You know, you are so unsuitable for my daughter. My child comes from a whole line of revolutionaries. And you look so lost. What are you gonna do about this baby?
You know what freedom is?
What?
No fear.
Go.
Not one thing, it's another. Find that to be true.
I need you, brother. Sensei, please.
Courage, Bob. Courage.
That's it. Courage. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you. God damn it! Viva la revolution!
All right, so that was the trailer for One Battle After Another. Basically, an ex-revolutionary's life is sort of turned upside down as somebody from his past comes back into his life, and he has to reunite with some old friends to try to keep people he loves safe. Stephen Miller, what did you think of One Battle After Another?
Yeah, so I kind of referenced the hype and how it's very hard to sit down and watch a movie when it has been drummed up as the greatest movie of the year, the greatest movie in many years, a masterpiece, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I have to be honest, in the first few minutes of One Battle After Another, I was a little worried, just because it is much weirder than I feel like the reviews acknowledge. At least the reviews that treat this as like it's going to be the next Oppenheimer in terms of like a sensation that regular people are going to flock to. I was a little concerned that there was maybe going to be a tonal mismatch between the kick-ass thriller that it sounded like I was going to watch and the movie I was actually getting. But pretty quickly, I fell in love with this movie, and I think it is fucking great.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm willing to subscribe to the word masterpiece or perfect. Like, I think I need to watch it again and really sit with it. But I do think this is like a phenomenally well-made movie, and I very much enjoyed it. And I think it will land pretty high in my year-end list, even if I don't totally know what to do with it yet. But the thing is, like, what I think it is good at is a very not commercial thing, which is this movie is a kind of like The Big Lebowski almost. It's like a twisty movie that is intentionally has a main character where they can't really affect the plot. The plot is happening around them and is mostly coming down to chance. Everyone else is much more effective than Leo is in this movie. And it is this kind of hybrid between a political thriller and a satire in a way where, like, if you take this movie seriously, if you watch this movie and think you are supposed to believe the French 75 is the coolest fucking thing ever and I can't wait for them to reunite, I think you're going to feel disappointed in this movie. I don't think that is PTA's project. I think he is doing... I mean, he's adapting a Thomas Pynchon novel. I haven't read Pynchon, but like I've seen Inherent Vice. Oh no, I have read The Crying Lot. I've read one thing by him, like his smallest novel. Okay. He mostly does like giant tomes with a million characters. But like the main thing about Thomas Pynchon is all about paranoia of like it's the 70s or 80s, and I feel like there must be meaning in America. So there must be like hidden organizations and codes and signals being sent and characters who like try to solve those and go crazy because there's like an endless pit of maybe this means something or maybe it means absolutely nothing. And this movie feels like it's taking that idea and applying it with a wink to what it feels like to live through modern day Trump era, where it's like things are so stupid and mean. You want to believe there's like some hidden meaning, that there's societies inside of societies and there's revolutionary forces and all this stuff to latch onto, but it never comes together. Like it turns out the enemy is just an idiot. And I think like keeping that in mind, I feel like how someone feels about this movie will hinge almost entirely on how they feel about Sean Penn in this movie. Like if you see Sean Penn's Colonel Lockjaw, this like guy with the world's dumbest face and like comb down, not even comb over, like a mohawk that just like combed forward basically. Yeah. And his like erection in the first 5 minutes of this movie, you either will look at him and be like, I get what movie I'm watching, I'm along for the ride, or you're going to be like, what the fuck is this political thriller? Yeah. You know, who is this bad guy? And for me, like, I loved it. I think we can talk about what this movie means. I definitely think it is trying to say a lot of things. But I think the main feature of this movie is that Leonardo DiCaprio is this washed up, you know, quote, revolutionary who... There was a way things were done in his day. Maybe even back then it wasn't effective, right? Maybe it was theatrical, but they didn't actually stop anything bad from happening. But now he's a fuck up, and he has to try to navigate the new world of political revolution. And it looks very different than the old world, right? The new world is much more like groups of people helping each other and networks coming together, and much less like we are going to do Weather Underground type stuff, you know? And I think one cool feature of this movie is everyone is more badass than Leonardo DiCaprio is. Like, Benicio Del Toro is the coolest motherfucker on earth in this movie. And it's funny because he's heavily featured in the trailer in a way that made me worried. In the trailer, it looked a little bit more like this was going to just be a kind of deadpan, dry comedy type movie, and maybe Benicio was going to be an example of like PTA doing his classic thing like Moto Panikaku, where there was going to be this guy that's like a sensei and they were going to squeeze a lot of juice out of that. He is so cool as this like actually, we don't have to get into spoilers, but he's actually doing revolutionary things, and he's not doing it in the self-aggrandizing way that the lead characters, quote, of this movie are doing it in. What I love about this movie is it manages to balance this kind of weirdness, this satire, you know, the enemy in this movie, when we learn what his aims are and what group he wants to join, like, it is all extremely goofy, but it manages to balance all of that goofiness with a real propulsive energy and this kind of keep the audience at the edge of their seat tension that I think is very hard to do in a movie where by design the lead character is not really affecting the outcome and plot just happens without there being a clear like driving force behind it. I think this movie balances so much so well, and it just like I think maybe if I have a criticism, I think it overstays its welcome by like 5 minutes. There's an epilogue that I don't think adds anything, that kind of like underlines stuff a little too much for no reason. But for the most part, this movie just, it keeps this incredible energy for a long runtime while telling a twisty, weird story that is like kind of living in satire and kind of not living in satire, and I was just here for the whole thing. So we can dive more into it, but I want to know first if I'm talking to someone who also is drinking the Kool-Aid or someone who felt more alienated by this movie.
I'm also drinking the Kool-Aid, Stephen.
Okay,
this movie fucking rips. But before I get into my thoughts on it, I just wanted to respond a little bit to what you're saying about Leo's character and the things happening to him. I don't disagree with you, but to me, he is Cillian Murphy's character in 28 Days Later, right? Like, he is, an event happens, he is metaphorically incapacitated, and then he kind of wakes up after the whole world has changed, right? Yep. And yes, he is not driving anything forward. It's all happening to him, but it's by nature of like, he essentially has to run to ground and go dark, and nobody ever brings him up for air. So it's just, it's yes, he is, now he's sort of an alcoholic and a druggy burnout dude, but that's because people just left him in hiding for 16 years. It's like, to me, it's kind of hilarious, right? Like I'm not the biggest person for like stoner humor, but it's the perfect amount in this film. So
definitely.
It's because the whole movie isn't a stoner film. It's one stoner character in an otherwise, though it's satirical and it's quite funny, it's also like a serious, dramatic action film as well. So it kind of plays in all those
It's the fact that it's both at the same time that I think is what makes critics and movie lovers like us like fall head over heels for it. But I also think it's going to hurt its ability to find a bigger audience.
Oh, yeah. But who knows? Maybe people will come in and sit down and they'll be so won over by the wildness of like the opening scenes of this film that they'll forget about the thing that would otherwise turn them off and just kind of run with it. But yeah, so like as this film started, like I know you were saying that like the very, very beginning is a little bit weird, but like kind of that whole opening section of this film, like the moment it started and I realized where and when we were and like what we were about to be doing in this film, I was like, all right, we're cooking with gas here, or at least cooking with, you know, a well shunted explosive device. And I was like, okay, so like we're starting to follow this, you know, group known as the French 75, and it's a militant group that's like, you know, doing stuff that like, yeah, we're on board with this. We're going to see where this is going. And just the story of this group would probably have been enough to sustain an entire movie on its own, right? Just watching them do their thing, potentially have a rise and fall, whatever's going on. If that's all this film wanted to do, it probably still could have been successful. But this film continually starts to bring more and more stuff and layer on things and more interesting things to have conversations about, or at least, you know, kind of, you know, spaces to play in that make you think, or at least make you have a chance to be really entertained with what's going. Like the what's the word, the tradecraft involved in this organization and what they do, and how that sort of gives you a glimpse into the wider revolution that's potentially happening. Like we are watching the French 75, but in theory, they're just one group of people who's trying to affect change. And theoretically, you know, all over the country, there's other people with their own little organizations kind of potentially doing stuff. Like over the course of this film, we'll meet little sects of different groups of people that are doing things, and there is a time jump, so who knows when those were all formed. At least some of them feel like they existed at the time before the time jump. But as we start sort of getting more and more of that stuff layered on, it becomes like, okay, it's a little bit of like sitting forward in your chair and being like, okay, I love what we're doing. This is really entertaining. What else are you going to layer on? And then we start to get, then we start to get the evil cabal of like racist pieces of shit in the military and the government. And then I'm like, holy shit, this is fucking great, because it is so serious and deadpan while at the same being the most absurd shit you've ever heard in your life. But they say it's like they're just talking about the fact that they're racist pieces of shit, but they're not actually saying the thing that a normal racist piece of shit would say in a movie. They're just saying the subtext out loud as their conversations, and you're like, holy shit, this is basically like, this movie says, Eddington, hold my beer.
I do think this movie and Eddington are very much like of a piece with each other. They do it very different ways, but they're both the most like, let's talk about how like fucking insane the world is right now.
Yeah. And I just really, really love that. And then on top of that, it starts to lay like, this is essentially a film that is taking this idea of revolution seriously, and this is specifically a militant group that is trying to affect things that we can agree with, but maybe doing it in a way that you're like, I don't know if we should be blowing shit up like that, right? But then on top of that, it layers in this idea of, it's one thing to participate in a revolution like this and do these type of things. It's another thing to bring a child into the world. And then how does that affect the way that you would want to pursue these type of things, given you now have to look out for more than just yourself and your revolutionary partner? So like as it layers each of these more and more complicated thoughts and stuff, this film just becomes more and more exciting. Then essentially we watch an entire plot of what could be a whole movie, and then we get this time jump, and that's all just the setup for the movie we're actually watching, which is like, Jesus, like how did you fit that much stuff into this movie? Like this is a movie that is 2 hours and 41 minutes, and just as I was going through and like writing bullets about stuff, I was like, how is all this in only 2 hours and 41 minutes? Like that, it's insane how much stuff is packed into this. This film could go on for like 4 hours easy with no problem, and still like just to fit all this stuff in it. So then we get the time jump, and this becomes like a a like a thriller where it's like a chase where you have all these characters who are all being pursued separately, and then just a series of heightened realities. Plus, you dive more into the weird cabal of racist people, and like this film just starts to expand and expand and expand and expand, and then it flips it on its head a little bit, and we're introduced to, I'm calling it modern revolutionaries in the sense of the chronology of this film, where it's like revolution that started 16 years ago. What has that led to now, and how can those things be compared to what we were doing back in the day? And I think like the most impactful part of this film is the introduction of Benicio Del Toro and like what his groups have been doing. And just when you see the extent of what they've been able to accomplish, this is a film that deals with, if you sacrifice a lot to try to affect change and you don't see the change that you wanted to make, how do you judge whether that was worth the sacrifice or not? It's like one of the themes of this film is that. And I think that seeing Benicio Del Toro's character and what he's been able to accomplish, and like we spend so much time seeing the tendrils stretch out from what he's been able to accomplish, and it's like, holy shit, that is amazing. And I don't think this is a film that is specifically saying you shouldn't be violent, you should only affect change through structures and plans and just doing that. I don't think this is specifically showing Benicio Del Toro to counteract what they did in the past, because I think part of the theme is that it required the act of those original revolutionaries to spur the motivation of other people to do things that are less violent. And it's this film is just dealing with so many interesting thoughts that it's just, I don't know. I just, the whole time I was like, holy fucking shit, this movie is as good as what everybody was saying leading into it. And I didn't think that was going to be possible. Like I wasn't skeptical going in, but I was surprised how much I was vibing with what this film was doing as I was watching it, and just being like, holy shit.
I'm glad
they did it. Yeah.
I've got when I watched it, because I usually feel like I can predict your tastes pretty well. When I watched it, I was like, I loved that movie. Chris will at least like what it's going for, but I was actually unsure if you would be along for the ride or not, in terms of just the intentional melding of tones that feel like they should be fighting each other. Because in a weird way, the fact that this is speaking to people right now, in part because it is about revolution, right? It's about what do you do with clearly a fascist state, right? How do you fight back? How do you survive this? But it's talking about the current moment with a heightening that I feel like if you actually read it literally as just being about the current moment, you'd be like, well, yeah, but I mean, that's not literally happening right now. There's a weird, I mean, it's closer than you want to believe. Like the satire is a little closer than you want to think, but like specifically, and we have to get into some spoilers just to talk about some of the best moments of this movie, the cabal and what they actually believe, and the way they talk about their racism just very openly, as if it's just a fact of the world, of like, oh yeah, of course, we can't have mixed race or misogyny. That can't happen. That if you were watching a just political thriller where everything else was played straight and that one detail is there, I can imagine watching that and being like, you pushed it too hard there. That doesn't ring true to me at all. That feels like you misunderstand the enemy. Like you're putting words in their mouth that sound too obvious or too, you know what I mean? But this movie, it's like PTA builds a world where you can allow for people like that to exist and worship the person that they worship and say the things they say and be named like Colonel Lockjaw. And I'm pretty damn sure he has a Lieutenant Toe Jam, a Sergeant Toe Jam. I'm pretty sure I heard that. Like somehow it creates a reality where all of that can coexist. And anyway, I'm glad to know that you liked it, because I thought it was possible that it would alienate you a little bit.
And I think it's doing a magic trick, because like, all the time a news story will come out and then everybody's reaction to it is like, if you wrote this as a plot to a movie, it would be not believable. Like you'd be like, there's no way anything like that could happen. And it's exactly what's happening. This film is like, it knows that's a thing, so its satire is not supposed to be just satirical enough for you to believe it. It's supposed to go so far over the line that when you recalibrate, you're like, oh yeah, that's pretty much it. And it's like, it's doing this weird thing where it is able to be more absurd than a different satire would go for, but that somehow makes it more believable in the context of the deadpan performances. Like, nobody is winking at the camera as they deliver these lines. It's deadly serious, and everybody hearing it is in on it and deadly serious to them too. So it's I don't know, it just, for some reason, it just worked perfectly for me.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just, it is very much a magic trick. It's the kind of thing where the whole time I was watching it, I kept thinking, is he going to trip up? Because this is really a high wire act that he's pulling off. And he maintains it, and he starts racing faster and faster over the tightrope as time goes on. Like, it really is just incredible how much energy this thing manages to capture. I think if I had to pick a favorite section, it would be the middle featuring Benicio Del Toro. There's a bunch of, at least it felt to me, I wasn't really watching in a, like, let me remember every shot type of way, but it felt like a lot of very long takes through windy corridors and kind of elaborate places that he has set up. And just, we are following Leonardo DiCaprio as he's going through his own, we see a good chunk of it in the trailer, like he's wrestling with the new revolutionaries and all of their codes and passwords, and he's like getting furious, and it very funny kind of culture clash commentary. But then all around him is Benicio Del Toro doing the actual thing, right? Right. Like, and I think there's just something so cool about that sequence and the rooftop and the skateboarders and the protests and just this, like, PTA just dropping you in this very real seeming revolutionary world, even if we're following a character who's a little bit more cartoonish than the real people around him. Like, I love that stuff. I also have to say, having spent a decent amount of time driving the 78 around, like, Anza Borrego and all that, it was pretty damn cool to see how much PTA clearly took inspiration from those stretches of highway. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the movie is awesome. I think the comedy is generally very, very funny. You know, PTA likes to have humor that the joke for him is sometimes the audience being squeaked out or not knowing if they're supposed to laugh. Like, I think about the controversial bits in Licorice Pizza, you know, there have been a few times like that in his career where it's like, he wants a character to say something offensive, so the audience has no idea, like, how are we meant to respond? And here he does some of that through the character of Leo, but there it's like, he's such a loving father who is trying to understand this new world. I think it goes over very well. Like, it doesn't feel like pot shots in the way that you could kind of imagine a crusty director doing it. And then he also puts some of the most awkward humor in the words of Sean Penn. And that, I feel like, is, my audience was squirming in, like, the best way, because everything about Sean Penn's Lockjaw is like, he's uncomfortable to look at. And, like, the way he walks, the way he moves his body, his facial expressions, he's like, I mean, like his name, he's constantly clenching, you know, he has like, you can just feel he is like this pure, bruised male ego, and it's like really uncomfortable to look at him or hear him talk about his motivations or hear him, like, try to win the respect of these other demented billionaires. And there's just something there that I think this movie is saying a few things. One of the things I think it is doing is PTA is a father, right? He's been married to Maya Rudolph for a long time. He has a handful of kids, you know, so he has mixed race children of his own who are coming of age in this new world. PTA was once a kind of revolutionary filmmaker, and he probably also, I don't know his politics, but you have to imagine, you know, he's a Gen Xer. He was young one time. He felt all this, like, fire and fury and wanted to change the world. And I feel like this movie is kind of a father saying, I know this is not my world anymore. Like, I know I am not the best equipped in the new revolution. My focus is on you, my kids, and I'm worried about you, but I also want to tell you whatever I have learned from living, which is that, like, the enemy will always exist, and they're fucking moron, they're sexually repressed, masculine nut job. How do you fight an enemy like that? Because it's going to keep being bloody and walking again and again and again. Like, it's not going to go away. And there's something about the combo of, like, Leo DiCaprio's genuine love for his daughter through all of his kind of fuck upness through this movie, paired with the villain being this just, like, pure male ego satire, that something felt like really interesting to me as like a commentary on the current moment. And I want to watch it again to like pull more out of it. I can't decide if this is a movie about fatherhood that just has politics on its mind, or if it's like a movie about politics that just happens to use a father as the argument, or if it's just both at the same time.
I feel like it is a film about how politics and fatherhood collide. Like again, going back to what I was saying earlier, is like, there are steps that being a father require you to take, and there are steps that being a human also require you to take, and those things can be in opposition to each other at certain times, or your willingness to put yourself out there to do something when you also need to provide for a family and protect a family might change your equation on how much effort you're willing to put into something. So it's like there's a lot of really, really interesting things that it's dealing with that I just think are, you know, exciting. Like the funny thing though is that Leo's character, he's so gone now and the fact that he spends so much of that like middle to late part of this film like stoned and just freaking out and not knowing what to do, he's missing what we are seeing about how much of the revolution is actually succeeding. And it's like, that is like one of the most tragic things. It's like, he can't stop and just see that, like, he's just so worried about, was I doing the right thing back then? And did we ever accomplish anything, that he's not realizing how much has been accomplished. So I think there's interesting stuff there as well. Yeah,
I agree. Do we just dive into spoilers? I don't know the right way to tackle this movie.
I mean, we can talk spoilers. We can say goodbye to the regular folks. We should do verdicts first. So we will have a spoiler segment. If you haven't seen the film yet, what the hell are you doing? Go see this movie. It's great.
Go see it. I would rather be watching it a second time than finishing the review.
There is a pretty good chance, if we can find a good showing left, that Jamie and I are going to go watch it tonight after we finish recording. Didn't get it to rewatch before the review, but trying to rewatch it again tonight. But anyways, let's get to verdicts, Stephen. If you were going to say must see, recommend with the caveat, wait for rental, pass the caveat, or must avoid, what would you give it?
Easy must see. Again, like I'm not yet willing to call it 5 out of 5 masterpiece, greatest movie of the last X years, but like the fact that it's even in contention should tell you how much of a must see this is. Like, it is very, very, very good.
It is a must see from me as well. Friggin', if you haven't seen it, go see it. If you have seen it and you were curious and wanted to see it again, go see it again. I don't know, it's great. So that is our review to must-sees from the Spoiler Warning podcast. We are about to say goodbye to non-spoilery folks and then get into a spoiler segment later. So for now, Stephen Miller, if people want to find you throughout the week, where can they do that?
People can find me at Blue Sky at sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or ChristopherIRL on a number of social platforms. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so in Overcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at twitter.com/spoilerwarning, facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from a track selected from artlist.io, so hopefully you're enjoying that. That music is playing now. It is going to fade up, and when that music fades out, we're going to be setting the fuse and blowing up spoilers in this episode. Later. All right, we are back. This is spoiler territory. It's the after part of our review of One Battle After Another. Stephen Miller, we're talking full-blown spoilers now. Where would you like to get started spoiling?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a few threads I want to talk about. Part of it is and I wish I had more synonyms for weird to describe some of this movie, but what I mean by that largely comes down to the character of Lockjaw. And so one thing, we're introduced to him early in this movie, when he is taken captive by Perfidia Beverly Hills, Tiana Taylor's character, who is in like very little of this movie, but kind of hovers over the whole movie. She was Willow, formerly known as Charlene. her mother, she was the revolutionary who married Leo DiCaprio. She seems to kind of be like the star of the French 75. Like, she's the one giving big monologues. She's the person who kind of is relishing the limelight. And she busts into this bunker where Lockjaw is at. And, you know, she points the gun at him and she tells him to get up. And by that, she means get erect for me.
Yeah.
Like right away.
She says, not on your feet.
Yeah, exactly. Not on your feet. And right away, there's this kind of like sexual, not even undercurrent, like very explicit current in this movie where Lockjaw is like, he is fetishizing her and her revolution and her blackness in a way that is very uncomfortable, and it's supposed to be uncomfortable. But anyway, he starts watching her from a distance, not intervening while the French 75 is doing all this stuff, just trying to find a way that he can blackmail her into having sex with him and hopefully eventually having a relationship with him. And like the whole premise of this movie comes from the idea that she might have had a child who was Lockjaw's because of his kind of like weird power mixed with fetishizing view of black women and revolution. And that is not just like a subtext of the movie. That like recurs over and over again. Like it is his whole reason for doing everything. We see it again later when he finally gets to paternity test Willow, and just like the way he looks at her and the way he talks about her mother and this kind of like hulking so right away, one thing that I noticed that I think will be hard for some general audiences is the intense fucked up sexual aspect of this movie. Like it isn't a bug. It's definitely there on purpose. It's definitely a commentary on fascism and the kind of like really petty, fucked up internal things that drive it. But it's just that was just something right away where I was like, wow, someone is either going to be on board this movie or they are not going to be on board, because this is not going to relent for quite a while.
I think it's just, I think that is one of the exciting dissections of this whatever they're called, the Christmas
the Christmas adventurers.
Yeah.
Of course, Hail Saint Nick.
Like they because this man has theoretically worked his way up, you know, at least by the 16 years later, he has worked his way up to like a higher rank within the military, right? He has theoretical status, he has theoretical power, but what he wants is this elite club of people who just believe that like he already has all the things that to him make him superior, but there is a club that he can't get into where they are truly superior, and he just wants to go in. He's doing worse at his job so that he can like get into this thing, because once he's achieved that, then theoretically he will be as superior as he thinks he can be, not realizing that he still won't be happy there, and maybe they will want him there anyways.
Right.
Which we can get to in a little while. But I think that like that thing in the beginning, because what he is seeing for the first time is true power, right? When he sees Tiana like go in there, like she has a gun, but she also just carries so much gravitas with her, and she clocks him instantly, and she's like, I know what's going on. At this point in time, they're a militant group in that they are armed and they are taking people at gunpoint, but there is never intention to actually hurt anybody. So you know, she's not going to just shoot him, but she could do what they do in every other movie, which is like, hey, we're taking the base, boom, and then knock him out, right? And then he wakes up and he's like, I'm going to get that lady. But instead, she sees exactly what's going through his head, and, and she decides to take that as an opportunity to gain leverage on him in the same way that, and sort of almost invite his attempt to get leverage on her. And it's not until later that she's actually caught where she has to make a choice to, you know, actually give in to that, or not give in to it, as she decides ultimately to do.
I mean, there are two pieces to that, right? She's caught by him and then makes the choice to go to his hotel room to try to keep him quiet. And then she's caught, and then it's join him and go into witness protection. So it's kind of like twice she does the Judas thing in a way.
Yeah. Well, the first time it happens, right, it's mostly like, it's so weird too, because he's like, hey, I'll let you blow up this government building.
Yeah,
like,
he doesn't care.
Yeah, it's like, I just want to go to a hotel room and have you sodomize me with my own gun.
Yeah, which is where babies come from.
Yeah. I was one of those things where I was like, did they do more than what they implied there? Because
they clearly must have.
Yeah, they had to, obviously.
Yeah, no, I know how biology works. Yeah.
But it was just so funny because you see that, and then it's like, I guess that gives you plausible deniability to make you not think about the fact. Like, obviously, he went there to have her dominate him, not to actually, like, force her to do something, right?
Yeah, because his conversation with Leo DiCaprio in the supermarket later, you could also read multiple ways. Like, it's very uncomfortable. He has that, like, weird tension. He's, like, obsessed with Leo and his daughter and, like, how he's with a black woman and he loves black women and stuff. But it's like, you don't necessarily know if he is thinking that might be my daughter or if he is filled with jealousy that another man gets her. I think pretty much the whole movie until the paternity test, you can live believing that he never even, like, actually had sex.
Yeah. I think the way that is presented to me, I assume that she didn't, but as soon as she's pregnant, which you see in the trailer, I was like, oh dear God, I am not liking where this is going. But it's like they leave enough plausible deniability that maybe whatever they engaged in that room was not exactly,
right.
Yeah. So
yeah. So anyway, he is just a part of it that surprised me, and it makes it feel like even the premise of this movie is a spoiler, which is why I wanted to keep it there, because it is all kind of about, a lot like some Coen Brothers movies like Fargo, where it's like all this for a little bit of money, right? Like all of the chaos that is unleashed in this movie, all of the deaths, all the communities that have havoc, like hell rain down on them, they happen because one petty man wants to see if someone is his daughter, so he can clean up the evidence if she is, so he can join this, like, terrible, goofy, racist cabal where they, like, sit in a boring office building and, like, have windows that look out to the desert. Like, that's all he wants. It's so small. Like, all of this for such a petty, little fucking thing that won't even make him happy.
And that's the thing, is I don't even think he knows what that cabal does.
Yeah.
He just knows it exists. It's like it's like if you, like, wanted to get into some secret club, and then you went into the club and it was just a dive bar, but like the entrance was really fancy, and like only like 4 people in the city could actually go inside there, but it's just you 4 in there. It's just like it just there's something so, and it's scary too, because the stuff he's willing to do to achieve his goals, to do something that is not about actually achieving good, but is just about getting into this society or having people like him or celebrate him as something. It just, every time somebody, I don't know, maybe in the government makes a decision that is the stupidest fucking decision you ever heard, and you're like, they're literally only doing this because there's, like, a group of people who will be like, yeah, I can't believe we got that done. And it's like, did any of you actually fucking want this done? Does it help even you? No, it doesn't. And it's like, just the way this film portrays that sad little man just felt so biting that I was like, it's wild they're getting away with this.
Yeah, no, I felt the same way. And it's kind of, I guess we don't know what motivated Lockjaw in the beginning, but the read I have is in the, quote, old days, in the days when Bob Ferguson was actually a revolutionary. He had a different name back then, but he's Bob Ferguson for so much of the movie. I don't remember it.
It was like the Ghetto Bob or something, right? Or something.
Ghetto something. Ghetto Pat, maybe?
Ghetto,
But anyway, in those days, the enemy was like this organized military force, and it still is in a way, but at least back then, they felt like they were fighting the power. They were fighting these repressive forces that were, locking people away. They were fighting some version of ICE. Now it's like power is these cabals of Peter Thiel type people instead. It's like the enemy. It's almost scarier and harder to figure out how to fight because you can't stop them from existing. They're just these, like, fucked up pockets with all these dumb goals and like the motivations for everyone involved, it's very hard to even figure out. And I think like this movie is playing with that. Like I think you are definitely supposed to see like Peter Thiel type people in that room. And yeah, it works. It works while being a satire and also being creepy at the same time. It just pulls off both in a way that's very, very impressive.
And that's the thing, like both governmental bodies and military ranked systems are like, most of the people don't get to think for themselves. Or let me rephrase that. They're structured in a way where they don't think for themselves. They always go with the decision of the person above them. So somebody who's not within those orgs, who gains favor with people in those organizations, who can influence those, will have access to like fleets of people who are willing to do whatever they're told, potentially. And it's just like, just seeing how that cascades and how one person that has like literally a stick up his ass about one thing can just mobilize all these forces to raid an entire town, to do a bunch of crazy stuff. And it's just like, I don't know, the whole movie, you're just like, how, like at the point where he is just shooting members of the French 75, not trying to detain them, just straight up like, there's one, bam, there's one, bam. And it's just like, this is getting way out of hand.
I guess another thing, and this is just like a way to talk about the plot, is I mentioned I feel like this movie very intentionally sets things up that you think, oh, this is going to be a key that unlocks some new part of the movie. This is when the hero will get the upper hand, and then it just always falls apart. Like one example of that is Regina Hall is in this movie quite a bit. She rescues Willow. She is taking her to the drop point. The drop point is a church with a bunch of like heavily armed nuns who are a part of a revolution. And the whole movie is kind of structured around, we are going to try to meet at this point together, the pickup point. And the movie never, like intentionally, it never gives you a moment of, wow, those nuns are so badass. Look at them fighting back. Look at all of it's just like the lockjaw just steamrolls in there basically, and just like, okay, I'm here now, I'm taking you hostage, now we're just driving off in the desert instead. And I feel like there's a handful of things like that where the movie is just like, you keep wanting there to be this badass resistance that is like an organized force, like a movie that you're expecting, and we don't live in that world. Like we live in a world where it's just people helping people, and all the people who are self-consciously trying to be cool basically get like, they either rat on each other or they fail like the moment they confront an actual enemy. I don't know what it's trying to say there, but it seems like it keeps doing it.
Yeah, I think the impression I got was that there is a sense that the nuns also went aground the way that Leo's character did, right? Like I kind of got the idea that they left. And also there's like, in these type of films, there's sort of like, I guess it's sort of a trope of like a church is a sanctuary, right? They have literal sanctuary cities, but like the church is a special kind of sanctuary where you can go to hide out. And I feel like those nuns are a pathway for other resistance people to take up and hold refuge there, but they're not necessarily doing anything other than facilitating that moving back and forth and hiding out when you need to hide out kind of situation. That's kind of where I built a mind palace for explanation for that.
Yeah. I guess another part I wanted to talk about, just because it's the part of the movie I haven't totally landed on yet, like I feel like I want to pay more attention on a rewatch, is if you follow the movie from Willow's perspective, after Sean Penn does the paternity test, and then he takes her in a car and hands her off to this Native American guy who is going to, he thinks like kill her, but he's actually handing her off to another group of people who are going to kill her. There's this moment when she is handed off, her fate is sealed, and then the guy has a change of heart, comes back out of his car again and kills everyone and gets killed in the process. And there's just this, I don't know how to explain it. There's a fatalism to the plot at that point where it's just like, she didn't have power. Leo didn't have power. No one made that happen. It is just like warring factions around her, and she's kind of floating through them somehow. And I can't tell what the movie is trying to do with that. It feels like there's a bunch of steps like that where it's like car to car, held in one place, held in another place, where it's just kind of like characters are falling through the plot to the final destination of the movie, and it doesn't lose me. It's weird that it feels so gripping when I actually think about what happens in the movie, and it's kind of a very I'm doing a windy hand gesture right now. It's like a very roundabout way to get to any destination, and it isn't like narratively satisfying in a sense of she learned a lesson, except for maybe she learned that the world is like deeply fucked up and your enemies still hate each other too, and you can kind of like I don't know if that guy, his last stand, his one moment of humanity is meant to make us have empathy for him, or if we're meant to look at it and just be like, these people are all fucked and they're killing each other, you know?
Yeah, for me, I kind of saw it as like he is somebody who is himself in the group of people this cabal doesn't have any affection for,
right?
if I can say it in a nice way. But he has sort of made himself useful to them in a way that lets him not be bothered by them and also have some sort of status himself. You know, when Sean Penn is handing off his daughter to him, and he's like, I don't do kids, like that's fucked up, I don't do that shit. And he's like, cool, just take him to this other like group of people and like send him off there. And I think he just finally was like, no, this is just a bridge too far. Like this is like, I've already sold my soul to the devil, or to Santa. And I'm just going along with everything that I know is wrong. And then in this one moment, he was like, she is so far. It's not just he's killing somebody who's been participating. This is somebody that's like 3 times removed from anything that put any of this in motion. And she did nothing but just be born. And she's a kid. And she's just waiting to be slaughtered. Fuck it. I'm done with this crap. And then he just goes off, and then he, you know, helps her get away, essentially. And I think that it's literally just a moment of, like, he sits in the car for so long just thinking about it. And I think eventually he just goes, like, you know what? Fuck these people. I'm out one way or another. And he just goes in there and messes them up, and then unfortunately gets shot himself in the act.
If I'm Willow, it's just like, couldn't you have had that, you know, moral dilemma before you dropped me off? It would have been much cleaner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It 100% would have. But I think that's his mini arc, right? Not her. Like, she does. You're right. She learns nothing from that. She's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it is just, you know, that guy had his own revolution in that moment, right? Like, you can do all this stuff, and then you can be one key moment in something that actually can build to something later and stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe it's like a small do your part message.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one part of the movie where I don't know exactly where it fits in everything else the movie's trying to say. And maybe it isn't trying to. Maybe it's just a twists and turns in this, like, meaningless, absurd, like, wasteland that everyone is living in.
Yeah. Yeah. Any last can I spoil Eddington?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think statute of limitations has passed.
Yeah, I feel like, first of all, nobody should watch Eddington. Second of all,
I disagree. But I will say, controversially, One Battle After Another, better movie than Eddington.
Yeah. That's a real hot take, Steven. Here's my question: is Joaquin Phoenix and Sean Penn? They basically have the same ending, right? But nobody's fucking Sean Penn's mom. Don't they both have their face messed up, and they basically are just sad and end, like, reclined in a chair and just like...
You're right. Yeah. Similar ending. I mean, in a lot of ways, like, that's why I think there's a lot of reasons to compare these movies. Yeah. Not only are they both meditations on how it feels to be alive right now, and they take paranoid things and make them true. You know, the cabals are real, Antifa is real. They also are about, like, how tech billionaires are, like, kind of behind the scenes controlling everything. And yeah, they're about, like, the sad men who try to take power for the dumbest reasons, and then in the end, when they get what they wanted, it's just like a meaningless existence.
Yeah. But in both movies, do both characters also have their lip, like, cut? Or did I make that up?
I don't think, because Joaquin gets hit like at the top of his head.
At the top of his head, but I swear there was also something wrong with his face.
He might have. Maybe on my third watch of Eddington, I'll catch it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I will say, and I kind of mentioned this in the pre-spoiler section, to my taste, if there's one thing I would change about this movie, I think the epilogue where we see the fate of Sean Penn is kind of unnecessary. Like, in my head, the image of him bloody and walking down the side of the road with his like herky-jerky whatever, he's still doing his little march. He is injured, but he still survives. To me, that is like the perfect image of this, like, the lumbering, buffoonish enemy that is just never going to die, that you have to keep fighting back down again. And I feel like just underlining again and again how meaningless it is. And that also is where it has the reverse rape conversation that I found, like, that's one of those examples where PTA is like trying to make the audience uncomfortable with how like deeply unfunny it is, and they're taking it so seriously. To me, all of that, it was just like, I think it could have gone out on another note. It's okay. It's just, I don't know that note had to be there.
So if I can play devil's advocate for you, or for me, I guess, this is the one thing I will say. Let's equate it to, for no reason at all, being stuck in traffic and people thinking that it's their turn to go instead of other people who should be going, right?
Yeah, something that may have happened to me immediately before recording today.
Yeah, for 2 hours immediately before recording.
Yeah, yeah, immediate is being very generous.
Yeah. But so here's the thing, right? For me, one of the things that makes me I'll even change it, okay? I live on a street that is only the crossroad has stop signs, right? Mm-hmm. You only stop if you're going north to south. If you're going horizontally, no stop sign, right? Mm-hmm. There was one time where there was a car waiting to cross. I didn't stop because I don't have a stop sign, but they tried to go right as I was approaching because they assumed I was slowing down, but I was slowing down to turn. They tried to go. Then they honked at me as if I had run a stop sign that wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And then I pulled into my house, which was near the intersection, and then they stopped their car behind me to like mad dog me or something. Mm-hmm. Like, oh yeah, fucking pull into your driveway because you don't know how to drive. And it's like, I didn't get out of my car because I didn't know who the fuck they were. Right. But what makes me most mad about that situation is they had a stop. I did not, and they will never understand that they had a stop, right? They will just live out thinking they were right. To me, if he ends marching down the street, that is triumphant for him. And he, the character, never internalizes that it was all for nothing. He thinks, I am fucking winning. Right? Big old W for me. By making him go everything, get the acceptance into the Christmas Adventurers Club, get his corner office, and then realize that actually they don't want me here and I am dying right now, is the fact that he has to internalize it. It's not like a Jimmy Hoffa last second, like, boom, get shot. Like, it's not a surprise. It is, well, fuck me. Oh my God. I thought I was triumphant. I'm not. I personally, the type of person I am, I need him to internalize it before he dies.
You want him to know.
Yeah, I want him to know.
So what do you think his mental model of the guy who shot him off the road was? Like, how can he still believe he deserves to be accepted by the Christmas Adventurers? It's just like his delusions? Or has he never seen that guy before? Is that not the guy he met earlier in the movie?
Yeah, maybe he didn't. Or maybe because... Yeah, I don't know.
It's like if Michael Clayton happened, and then at the end, Michael Clayton just like walks up and thinks he's still friends with everybody. Which is okay. Like, I'm okay with that beat too, because it's like, this guy is a moron with delusions of grandeur. Like, that's all fine for me. I just wonder if the movie wants him to know or not.
Yeah, I guess. Does anybody know? Yeah. Oh, yeah, because he comes back and they're like, well, isn't this true? And then he makes up the reverse rape story or whatever. Yeah, so man, that makes me twice as much like the ending, because he was so cooked, but he was so desperate to be in, the Christmas Adventurers Club that he still fucking took that meeting like a goddamn idiot.
Yeah.
And then he makes up some bullshit thing that they don't even believe.
Right.
Like, there is a version of this movie where that becomes a movement and that becomes talking points that they give to other people to justify their actions. But even those motherfuckers didn't believe his story. And it's just, he's so desperate to get in there. Like, it makes it feel so much, you know, like the chicken I couldn't order at Alamo, the finger licking chicken. I don't know. It's like a little bit of a chef's kiss for me, because I'm just like, good, you fucking know, guy. You know, you stupid small man.
I hear you. When I watch it again, I'll be waiting to see if I get more of that hit of adrenaline. For me, and I did see this at like a quite late screening. It was 10 p.m., which is late for me to start a movie when I'm not at a festival with you. And so I think maybe for me, I was like, man, you went out on the perfect note. We don't need to do this again. But I see the value.
It is a little weird, right? Because it's basically like he got fired and then showed up to the board meeting the next day.
Exactly, yeah.
And was like,
so
guys...
George Costanza.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Any last things you want to talk about, Steven?
I don't think so. This movie rips. Excited to see it a second time.
All right, that's it, guys. Go see this movie. If you're listening, you've already seen it. Go see it again. This movie's fucking great. Later, everybody.
Bye.
God damn it! Viva la revolution!